Hello, my name is Christopher Leffoltz, and this is the FY23 Q2 Development Kickoff AMA. So this is an Ask Me Anything opportunity for us to ask any kind of questions we may have about Q2 related to development or any other general questions about development that we'd like to discuss. This is the pre-video call, and we'll just highlight some of our accomplishments as well as kind of looking forward. So in Q1, we actually had a very successful quarter. We've increased our headcount roughly by 13 folks, which is a 4% increase quarter over quarter with a 17% increase year over year projection. And we're a little bit behind still, but we are working hard to keep building up the recruiting team as well as our hiring pace. We already have 20 starts for Q2, which is very encouraging. Our overall goal is 35, so we're about halfway through that hiring part, and we are about halfway through the hiring period for Q2 based on start date. So we're pretty much on track at this point. We've reduced the infradev and security issues. So we're down to below or at 5 past due infradev issues and just around 25 past due security issues. So that's a pretty big accomplishment over the last quarter. And then we've continued in parallel to innovate on our product with additional features and functionality. We've updated our overall MRs by type, and it's showing that we are actually returning to more of a balance with feature development rising. So it's good to see folks getting back to feature development there. We've kicked off 3 working groups, in particular next prioritization, which is looking at that balancing between the various activities of bug fixing, maintenance, and feature development. We also have a rate limit architecture working group kicking off, which is focused on API limits and how we best rate limit our products so that we don't protect ourselves against denial of service as well as other potential challenges. And then last but not least, there has been a need for us to focus on maintainership. We definitely need to increase the number of maintainers we have, as well as our policies and procedures around maintainership. So we have a robust maintainership so we can support both our community contributions as well as our growth that we're expecting here in FY23, FY24, and FY25. We're using a new format for the development key review. You can go look at the notes there associated with that. Normally we cover that information as part of our group conversation, so I won't highlight too much there. And then a few other things. We've worked hard to prep for the FIPS audit. We just had our FIPS audit May 2nd, so it's actually technically in Q2, but so far the audit results look promising. So we're really encouraged by all the hard work that everybody's done, as well as the opportunity associated with that to complete that work and get that certification so that we can sell the product in that space. We completed phase 4 of the decomposition rollout. This is a big deal to our scaling needs. This is basically breaking out the verify functionality to support a decomposed database, and this is quite an achievement so far. And then we also worked on background database migration, making it generally available. And then last but not least, I said that a couple times, we delivered 2 iterations of cloud licensing to keep working towards higher adoption for our product and increased our adoption rate. I gave us a little bit of a scorecard here around our direction page. You can go read about the details here. There's areas that need attention and areas that are on track. Areas that need attention are kind of the things that I'm thinking about focusing most of our time on around looking at various aspects here, as well as keeping monitoring on those other areas. And one last area is the product partnership and priorities. I'm still trying to figure out how best to score that in conversations with David DeSanto on that particular directional piece. For Q1 OKR results, we had a pretty strong quarter as far as our OKRs go overall. Probably the main highlight is our MR rate. I was a little too aspirational, hoping to get an increase of 2.5, and we were closer to about an increase of 1. So next quarter, we don't have this as a top level OKR, but we are having each sub-department focus on it. And that's how we'll measure it and kind of evaluate it in this coming quarter. Q2 OKRs was where we're going to be obviously focusing going forward. Hiring continues to be an area of focus, as well as mid-year check-ins, so everybody getting some feedback on how they're doing and performing at the company. ARR drivers, we're going to continue to enable the going to continue to decompose the database, meaning that we're going to kind of break out, and the intent is to get to full production rollout. So we're pretty excited to take on that challenge and see that happen. We're also continuing to work on our go-to-market efficiency with cloud licensing and weekly activations. You can see the percentages there for goals associated with that. And then also get FIPS to the state where we get to compliance. So we're looking to get to complete of many issues associated with that. We do have 4 things that we would like to try to do in improving the product. First thing is obviously that cross-functional prioritization, seeing that ship and starting to use that technique to kind of evaluate how each of the teams are kind of focused to understand how we're doing it. We also need to look at reducing our need for broad production access, and particularly the development department has a large number of folks who have access to production. We'd like to decrease that through basic feature functionality that we add to the product to help so that infrastructure can more support things rather than us doing it. SUS has the initiative to continue to burn down both S1, S2 issues, as well as the pajamas migration. And then last but not least, we'd really like to, as I mentioned before, we'd like to increase the number of maintainers we have, as well as work on looking at availability needs and other things that are slightly different measures than just the number of maintainers, so that we can have a better development experience for everyone involved. Just a quick note on culture amp survey results. We had a couple action items from last quarter. I just want to note that they were both completed. So that's pretty exciting. We're kind of looking forward to the fall results to see how we're doing on the engagement survey in this area. I just want to call out that we worked to try to address the needs there associated with both growth and development, as well as leveraging our diversity along geographic lines. A few highlights from specific teams that were able to give us some updates, in particular, model ops and growth. Andy Buse has been working hard on reducing risk with credential stuffing attacks. So that's a pretty big area. If we're being able to reduce that level of abuse by about 40%. Other thing to note is that the reviewer recommended in model ops has actually been able to get to greater than 60% to the right reviewer. So that's a pretty neat technique where it's not even you have to use code owners, but actually use basically a trained AI to basically effectively tell you which reviewer is best suited to answer for your code review. And then growth in particular implemented a lot of free user strategy functionality. That's been a pretty successful top 12 initiative. So it's good to see us helping out with that top 12. And then we're working on starting the relaunch of the GitLab internship program. We did it in, I believe, 2 years ago. Last year we did not have interns, so we're trying to get that back in place associated with that. And those kind of the quick highlights from that sub-department. Enablement had many of the similar ones. I highlighted a bunch of these above, but the 2 I want to call out specifically is the working on getting Ruby 3 in place. So we definitely seen a green build, so that's encouraging. So that we can work towards a successful upgrade. And then the other one I'd like to point out is work on improving distribution pipelines. The distribution team works very hard to basically kind of get our omnibus package and several other packages ready for customers. They oftentimes are getting code reviews from several groups within the organization. They need to make sure that they can kind of handle different pieces. And this is kind of one way for us to potentially work on efficiency as well as work on improving the experience for them. So I'm glad to see that that's an opportunity for us to do that. In fulfillment, we already talked a little bit about cloud licensing and the different pieces, but the other piece to notice is that we moved actually from customers dot from our previous infrastructure over to GCP. So that was a pretty big move. Pretty exciting to see that move over. It went pretty well. I believe there were very few issues associated with that. As we move into Q2, again, focusing on the go-to-market efficiency, and then hiring and also basically a strong technical foundation where we're looking at both our SOX aspects as well as our Zora orders and ramps. So those are key aspects that we work with. And this group is a little bit unique in regards to they have a lot of internal cross-organizational work to do with our counterparts in sales. And that's probably one of the biggest complexities to this area. So if you're not familiar with fulfillment, but you know someone in that team, I'd encourage you to go talk to them about it because it's pretty interesting conversation to have. That's it for the pre-video call. If everyone has questions, then we'll go ahead and open it up and see what folks have to discuss. Thank you, everybody.